Okay, everybody, welcome to My Story Seminar. So it's hosted by GROW, which is Graduate Resilience Outreach and Wellness. And we're an organization here on campus that, admit, I don't know why I put a waiting room on this. Anyways, so we're an organization on campus that aims to support connectedness and community among graduate students and postdocs. But before we get started, I wanted to put in a plug for our De-Stress Power Hour, which is going to be today from 12 to 1 in Volker Hall Lecture Room C. Lunch is going to be served and provided by Student Affairs. So thanks, Dr. Jones. And our student clinicians from the Masters of Arts in Counseling program will be leading a session to unwind and skill build around the topic of imposter syndrome, which I'm sure all of us are very familiar with. So My Story Seminar features individuals who give an informal talk on their career journey and share the benefits and struggles of their experiences. So presenters will discuss their decision to pursue their chosen career and the thoughts and challenges and life experiences they encountered along the way. What's really special about My Story Seminar is that these stories can't be found on Google, but they're their authentic journeys told in the hopes of inspiring you to continue in your path and reassurance that there's no one pathway to success. So today is really a celebration because it is our first ever My Story that is featuring a trainee, which is so exciting. So it's a little bit, Sade is a postdoc, so she's a little bit ahead, if not in your shoes currently. And so we're so excited to invite her as UAB alum back to tell her story. And as part of the celebration, I wanted to hand the figurative mic over to Jasmine Benjamin, who is one of Sade's best friends, to do a great job introducing her. So go ahead, Jasmine.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. I'll try not to take too long, so I know we have the rest of the hour. So our guest speaker today, as Lawrence said, is a UAB alum. She got her PhD in the Graduate Biomedical Science program. She got her undergraduate degree at UGA in cellular biology, and she's now a Rita Levi Montalcini postdoctoral fellow in regenerative medicine at Washington University in St. Louis. Sade more or less jumped in as a mentor for me when I first started in the GBS program in my first lab. But little did I know that she would become one of my dearest friends and one of my closest confidants. Sade is a true mental health warrior, which I'm sure is part of the reason that she's here speaking with us today. And I probably never would have thought to start going to student counseling services and getting started on my own mental health journey if we hadn't met. She's always been very transparent, very honest about her mental health journey, which is incredibly valuable since grad school can be a trigger for a lot of different things. So it's nice to have someone who's very open and honest about their experiences. One of the most salient things that Sade ever told me is that grad school isn't necessarily about what you know, but it's more about perseverance. It's about waking up and kind of going and doing your research or going to class, really putting one foot in front of the other day after day. However, as I'm sure we all know, some days it's kind of hard to do that, much less get out of bed. And so another thing to know about Sade is that she's a self-care queen. She isn't afraid to take a day off if she needs to, which is another thing that I'm very glad to have learned from her. It's really helped me to kind of keep my head on straight during this process. Sade is a force, and I'm sure that you'll learn a lot from her in the remainder of this hour. And I could probably spend the rest of this hour waxing poetic about how wonderful, powerful, inspirational, and dear she is to me. But instead, I'll give you all the opportunity to witness that for yourselves. So I'll pass things over to this week's My Story speaker, Dr. Sade Williams-Clayton.
Wow, that is so nice. You didn't have to say all that, friend. I appreciate you. I see you. So thank you so much, Jasmine. As Jasmine said, she's one of my best friends and definitely knows me better than most people on this call. And so hearing kind words from such a close friend is always so nice and so grateful for it. But I'll jump right in because I really want discussion and questions and comments and just really a dialogue after this. So I'm going to try to not hurry through this, but get through it so that we can just spend some time talking because I love to talk, as you'll notice very, very, very soon. So I think I titled this talk, let me downsize this. I titled this talk, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, my journey from then to now and the lessons that I've learned along the way. And I did that because it's titled after a pretty famous movie called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Has anybody heard of this movie, seen this movie? If not, you are missing out, okay? It is a masterpiece. Stole, the award season spotlight, won so many awards, and rightfully so. And so I chose this movie because of the poignant themes that are expressed throughout. And so this is a story about the meaning of life and the experiences and the relationships that shape us. And I really resonated with this movie because so many of your choices and the experiences that happen to you, um, whether you acknowledge them or not, really shape who you are and shape how you interact with people in the world. And sometimes you really have to stop and reflect on that. And so this movie happens in 3 acts. The everything, where it seems like the world is falling apart for the main protagonist. The everywhere, where this protagonist seems to be flailing, not really connected to themselves. And then the all at once, where things are resolved, maybe not in a perfect way, but they find their grasp and their hold on life. And so I'm going to phrase or talk about my life in these three scenes as well, if you will. And so before I talk about those scenes, I want to mention that this movie, the two producers for this movie, the Daniels, one of the Daniels, Daniel Scheinert, is actually from Birmingham, Alabama. So this is another full circle moment now that this Grow presentation is hosted by UAB. So a little bit of trivia there. So the first phrase of my life that I'm going to phrase in the context of this movie is the everything. So it's gonna start a little heavy. My adolescence was interesting. And I'm really going to give you everything and all of me, all of the experiences from my adolescence to college that really shaped who I am and shaped how I navigated the world. The second part of my talk is the everywhere, where I felt everywhere in terms of my mental health and my emotional stability and kind of the fallout of those experiences that shaped my adolescence. And so I titled this portion Losing and Then Finding Myself. And I'll phrase this from college to grad school. And then we'll end with the all at once. So who I am today and how I feel as though my life has finally fallen into place. And so that's from kind of the end of grad school and this current postdoc to present. Okay, so let's get started. So this is baby Sade. Okay, right? So in the middle there is me at 2 years old. Do I have any memory of this? Absolutely not. Okay, because who remembers anything from 2 years old? But my mom told me we went to some department store, maybe it was J.C. Penney, and look at those cute chubby cheeks, right? And so on the right is me at 5 years old. I remember this picture distinctly because it was my first year of going to school and I was so excited to go to school. You can see the silver caps on my teeth, so you can see I was like running amok as a child. But yeah, this is me as a child, as a baby. And I was born in August 6, 1993. I am a millennial through and through. And so from my over reliance on technology to my love of avocado toast, I am a millennial. Like I am a poster child millennial. But you know, the very superficial and stereotypical things that describe a millennial are very surface level. They don't really describe me. And so to really acquaint you with who I am, I wanted to acquaint you with my name and the legacy that my name holds. So I was born Sade Tonisha Williams. And to kind of acquaint you with my legacy, I'll start by describing the origins of my name. And so I think this is important, especially for African Americans living in America, because as one of my top two, not two authors stated, James Baldwin, is that to be African American is to be African without memory and American without privilege in this country. And so I think it's so important for people to, especially African Americans, to really connect with their roots and who they are to kind of find their place in this society and a place in this world. And if you don't know James Baldwin, I highly recommend you pull up some of his literature. He is a novelist, playwright, civil rights icon, and civil rights activist and LGBTQ icon, and just a profound orator. So I highly recommend his works. But let's begin with my first name. And so my first name, Sade, is from the great Sade. If you haven't heard of her, I again highly recommend you to update your playlist. She is amazing. This picture in the middle is her and, the highlight of her career. This is the 80s and the 90s. And this picture on the right is her at her current age. But the name Sade actually in its own right has quite a profound legacy. So Sade, the singer, is a Nigerian British singer. And her full name is actually Helen Folashade Adu. And so that Folashade is where she derives her common name, Sade. But Folashade is actually from a language from one of the largest tribes in Nigeria called Yoruba. And the name Folashade means honor earns a crown. And so the Sade portion of that means crown. And so it's a semblance of royalty. And so I had no knowledge of what my name meant. So I always knew growing up that I was named after the singer, but I had no idea of her heritage and the legacy of this name until college, when I was introduced to African students who also were attending UGA. And so I was always overwhelmed by kind of the implications of such a name, but also feeling like it wasn't mine to carry because I didn't share that heritage, that ethnicity. And so that led me to look into my last name. And so again, I never, being a product of the transatlantic slave trade and not really being connected to my history, and not a lot of African-American families don't have a written history of what their history and their heritage and their ethnicity is. So a lot of it is passed word of mouth. And so I really wanted a finite answer of what my ethnicity is, what my heritage, who my ancestors were. So I went to Ancestry DNA. And so, as you can see here, unsurprisingly, I'm a little bit of everything from all over, but mostly Western African countries, and the largest percentage of that being Nigeria. So maybe I am a little deserving of my first name. But what really stuck out to me was this area shown here on the far left in the United States, because that is something that was actually mentioned by my family. So I was always told my great-grandfather had such a funny accent. Maybe it was Haitian, maybe it was Creole, but he came from the coastal regions of South Carolina, and that we are Geechee Gullah people. So at first I thought my family was speaking gibberish, okay? I was like, I've never heard of such a name. But when I looked at these ancestry DNA results and I started really looking to this culture, it made me realize that there is most definitely some merit in that. So has anyone ever heard of the Geechee Gullah people? Yes. Okay. I see one head nodding. Wow. And so, yeah. And so I highly recommend, if you haven't heard, there's this great organization and website called the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. But essentially, the Gullah Geechee people are descendants of Africans who were enslaved on the rice, indigo, and Sea Island cotton plantations. And that's through North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, the coastal region. And some of my family actually still lives in this region. And so for me, this was the missing piece or puzzle of myself that really tied myself to the heritage of who I am and where I came from. And all because I was just so curious about my name. And so I just wanted to start the talk by discussing who I am based on my legacy, based on the legacy of my name. But how does this tie into where I came from? Where I'm from, I am from Georgia, born and raised in a tiny town called Girard, Georgia. And Girard has a population of 200 people. Yes, I said 200 people. People rarely believe that. But yes, it was very small, very rural, that was already in a big rural county. And so even within Georgia, my city is so small that if you ask people from Georgia, if another person from Georgia asked, Jasmine's also from Georgia, and when she first asked me where I'm from, I said Burke County, because we know the county, but that town is so small, she would have had no idea what I was talking about. Or I'll say, oh, near Augusta, and that'll give people an area. But this town is so small, so rural, that the only thing I can remember this town having from my childhood was 2 convenience stores, a barbecue restaurant, and a post office. That was it. No stoplights, nothing like that. There really wasn't a town center. It was just very rural. And one of my most burned in memories of my childhood was living on a dirt road until the age of 5. And it was such a big deal. And I remember seeing my childhood home having a paved road outside. And it was so rural that this county, Burke County, only had 1 high school for the entire county. And again, this is the second largest land county of Georgia. So it was about a 35-40 minute ride every day for me to get to and from school. And so it was quite the trek. And so not only that, living in, I always grew up feeling like I lived in such isolation. And so most of my friends that went to high school and middle school with me in Burke County lived in the biggest city in Burke County, which is Waynesboro, or in Augusta. And so growing up, I just mostly saw my family, and it felt really isolating, being out there with the cows and the chickens and the pastures and the trees. And so there's only so many red light, green light stops, mother may I's that you can play before you just really feel the effect of living in such a rural, isolated place. And so from a very young age, I had to be really, really self-reliant. And one reason I had to be that is, again, because of that isolation. Mostly just seeing my family, not really, I couldn't really have play dates and sleepovers because we just lived in the middle of nowhere and everything was at least a 15-minute drive away, minimum. Poverty. So I grew up very, very poor. I understood at a very young age that I did not have the resources, the money, the family connections that other people did. We lived on 2 acres of land down there in Girard, and a lot of my extended family also lived in the same house with me. So it was me, my mother, my brother, my aunt, her child, my cousin, who was like a sister to me because we were raised together, and my grandma. And so we all lived in a 2-bedroom home. And so we heavily relied on government assistance. And to be honest, life did not come easy for us. And so isolation coupled with poverty, coupled with a family devastating, ailment of alcoholism. And so multiple generations of my family have suffered with alcohol abuse, including my own mom. And it was very difficult for me as a child to grapple with this fact, with that people suffered, people that I loved were suffering, and some even died. 3 of my uncles have died with complications with alcoholism. That they really struggled with this. And also as a child, again, your brain is developing, so you don't really know how to grapple with these things. You just see the effect that it has on people who are close to you. And so alcoholism coupled with these 2 other things were already enough to really make me a very reserved and introverted child. Also, my family, and like a lot of Black families, honestly, don't express a lot of outward emotion. So there were no hugging, there was no outward saying of I love you, there was no kissing, affection of that sort. We're a type of family where acts of service is the way that we express love. And so that was really also, the top 3 things were already enough for a child, but that coupled with that 4th bullet point that was really tough for me, it really played a hidden role on my mental health that I didn't know until the effects of it reared their head later on in life. So what did I do to cope? Well, pretty much the only thing that I could do was read. I was an avid reader, and it really allowed me to just pour myself into places that I thought that I would never see, never experience. At least I had a book that I could read and really experience a world that I just did not have access to because of all the bullet points that I just expressed before. Also, I knew from a very early age that education was freedom, that was the way that I could get out of this small town by going to college and trying to make something of myself. A lot of the people in my family, at the very maximum, got a high school diploma, but really didn't do anything with that because of alcoholism, because of poverty. And so I knew that I had to put my head down and really pour myself into my education, because that was one of the main reasons or ways that I could really leave my current situation. Another way I coped with all of this was I poured myself into extracurricular activities. And so thank God that, Burke County provided what they called an activity bus. So students who were interested in doing extracurricular activities that had to spend time after school, they had an extra bus that would take you home around 6 o'clock after all these activities had ended. So it gave you transportation, because without that, I couldn't afford or had the transportation to do so. So this is me, Sade, the band nerd, very proudly so. And on the left here, you can see me in my marching outfit. I was also first chair, by the way, of the flute section, as well as the auxiliary section during marching. And so the auxiliary section are the xylophones, the marimbas, which led me to play the piano today. So I really poured myself into it, and I loved band. Not only because it gave me something to do, and it made me feel like I had an outlet from everything that was going on, but with band we traveled. I got to see, we never took family vacations, so this allowed me to go to Disney World and and helped me at a reduced cost, which was already tough, but it gave me access to things that I probably would have never had the capacity to do and see before. Also, I played tennis. Was I good? Meh. But I enjoyed it. It gave me something to do. And all these things really helped me channel all that anxiety and isolation and energy that I didn't know was taking a toll on me. It helped me kind of find a way to express that without talking about it yet, or not even knowing that I needed to have an outlet yet. And so, but I made it, right? Like, this is me at my high school graduation. And the world was my oyster. So what everyone else saw was that, I was an undergraduate. I graduated magna cum laude. I was the 7th of my class. So I was very proud of myself for buckling down and doing what needed to be done to not only graduate, but graduate with honors. I was the first honor graduate in my family and a first generation college student. So I got accepted into my top choice, my only choice, and I'll tell you why in the next slide, of colleges, the University of Georgia. Ever since I was a little girl, I dreamed and hoped and prayed that I could go
Hey, Jasmine, you want to shoot her a text?
Yeah, I'm texting her right now.
Hooray for technical difficulties.
Oh,
She'll be back. Hold, please.
yeah.
She left us on a cliffhanger. But also go dogs.
Ugh.
Can't stop thinking about how much I miss St. Louis.
I also love that we have another band nerd in the audience. Hmm. I'm going to take this opportunity to go check on the infant who just woke up from his nap. Hooray for sick children. Sick children. Daycare called him home yesterday with a fever after he had been crying. He does not have a fever. He was just hot from crying. Thanks, daycare.
Am I back?
You are
Okay,
back.
perfect. Okay. Let me go back. Sorry, y'all. Let me share my screen. Okay, we was just getting good, y'all. Okay, we was just getting in something. Hold on. Okay, let me go back. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if you heard last, but yeah, I was in this situation in this feeling of feeling like a boat without a sail. And so honestly, I can only afford to fill out one application. Applications are expensive, and the average cost was $200 to $300. And I just didn't have that type of money. And so I had to be very strict. So thank God I got into UGA, or I wouldn't be here. Also, I didn't have the transportation or the money to do that. And same day as the first day of moving, which made your day super long and overwhelming. And that was my only choice. And so that's what I had to do. And this was really the beginning of my mental health decline, because I was using this opportunity. I was ecstatic that I got into college and I was hopeful, but it really was a band-aid over a hemorrhaging wound of unresolved trauma that resulted from my childhood. And that really reared its ugly head during the first 2 years of college. Sorry. And so my life as the most mentally challenging experience that
Hey,
I've ever gone through
Sade.
so far. And for a
Hey,
variety
can
of,
you
yeah,
can you turn your camera off? That might help with the connection because you're still going in and out.
yeah, I'll turn my camera off.
All right.
Hold on. Let me also, this internet boy. Okay. Oh, I see why. I see why. Hold on. Yeah, I'll turn my camera off. Okay. Can you hear me still?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay. So the first 2 years of college were a really mentally challenging experience for me. And that's because, first of all, I felt like a fish out of water. I'm a first generation college student. And so, again, that came with its own difficulties. Like how I just described, like I just didn't understand scholarships. And so that already was overwhelming. Culture shock. Uh, just the UGA's campus alone, on average, has about 35,000 students. And coming from such a small town, it was really overwhelming to see so many people. And I really didn't know how to deal with that, or wasn't prepared for that. The lack of diversity. And so UGA is not a very, this was shocking to me, or at least overwhelming to me, because my hometown is my majority Black. Even Augusta, it has a large population of Black citizens. And even my high school was 50% Black. So to come to a place where I'm not only the minority, but like the obvious overwhelming minority, and there was kind of no sense of community or my mental health. This again, I state that I always knew that I was poor. Obscene displays of wealth before in my life that made me really understand my socioeconomic class. One toxic relationship after another. And so I know now from therapy and from reflecting on my life that I just kind of got into these codependent relationships just to feel some of that emotional support that, again, my family was just not very open and showing. And that really was taking a toll on my mental health. An absentee father enters and leaves my life. And again, this is all happening within like years of me entering college, mostly within the first year. And so he comes and love bombs me and then leaves abruptly. And overall, I was just really burnt out from dealing with this family trauma, and I didn't know that I was mentally burnt out from dealing with it, but it kept rearing its head in terms of me just really isolating myself from my friends. I couldn't focus on my work at school. I had no motivation. And I really was just a very anxious person, very worried and stressed all the time. It was affecting my physical health in terms of me not wanting to eat. I couldn't sleep well. And what ended up happening was that I struggled in my classes because I could not focus. And I lost hope, literally and figuratively. And so Georgia has a scholarship called the Hope Scholarship, and it's offered to people who need financial help. And because I couldn't focus, I wasn't doing well in my classes, and I lost my scholarship. And this ended up with me being kicked out of my classes in the first or second semester of my sophomore year. Due to me, I just couldn't pay my bills. I lost my Hope Scholarship, my finances were in ruin. And so I had to go back home for 3 weeks thinking that I would never return because this debt was just too much to pay. And so this was a really, really dark point in my life, the darkest point that I've had thus far, where I just given up. I was like, well, I tried to be, the exception to the norm of my family and escape poverty and escape alcoholism and do all these things, but it just wasn't in the and I have favorite quotes that I sprinkle throughout this talk, but this is one where it says trauma is personal and it does not disappear if it's not validated. And so my trauma was really rearing its ugly head because I didn't know, I couldn't talk to, or I didn't talk to anyone. And you have to talk these things out and get them off your chest, or they're going to rear their head in places that you don't suspect. So the rest of the quote goes, when it is ignored or invalidated, the silent screams continue internally, heard by the one that is being held captive. And when someone enters the pain and hears the screams, healings can begin. And so I had to really, that time at home, those 2 to 3 weeks that I was kicked out of school, I had time to reflect and really look internally to deal with some of these problems. And so I've labeled this as the journey back to myself, where healing began. And it began because my family reached out their hand to help me. And I did not expect this. Again, we are not rich people, but they banded together to help me pay that debt. And that debt was about $3,000, which is an obscene amount of money for my family. But I remember distinctly driving in the car with my cousin, being kicked out at home, and she's saying something to the effect of like, "We got you. Like, if we all have to pull together, we're going to do what we can to get you back into that school," because they believed in me. And that was the first time that was like an outward expression of them being proud of me. And I really needed to hear that. And that was truly the beginning of me feeling like God was giving me a second chance to get things right and do things right and deal with my stuff so that I can bring my best self back with me to Athens. I ended toxic relationships and set boundaries. I realized that I kept getting into these relationships and places and spaces that were not good for me because I was looking for healing in the wrong places. And I started focusing on my mental health and physical health by pouring into my hobbies. And so I come from a musical family of singers and dancers and musicians. And so in college, I joined the choir in my church. That's that top picture. And then I also joined a professional choir hosted by UGA. And I really just poured into doing what makes me happy and brings me joy, which was pouring into music. I accepted some hard truths. So when I first got to UGA, I chose the biochemistry major. And I literally chose it because in high school, I was like, oh, I like biology. I like chemistry. Let's put them together. That sounds like a good major without any idea. I know, girl, I'm looking at Jasmine's face. Without any idea of what that major looked like, what jobs you can get with that major. Because again, I had no direction. I had no guidance. And so I was just figuring it out as I went. And so to the to my advisor did not advise this, but in my junior year, I switched my major, and that's probably what saved my, career. I switched it to cell biology, and I stopped being stuck on this fantasy of my future that was not rooted in reality or the present. And this fantasy was that, I said that I was going to be a biochemist, so I have to be it. And who said that? People can pivot and change their mind at any time. And I finally just started being real with myself. And finally, I started asking for help. I started being honest with my friends about what I was really struggling with. And maybe not fully, I wasn't at that walk in my mental health journey yet, but I started letting them in and letting them know that I was really struggling with some things. And that really put me in the right direction. So cell biology allowed me to take specialized courses that actually allowed me to enjoy science. Before, I was going through the motions. And so when I got reinstated back into my classes, I vowed to do things with intention. And so it allowed me to take all the cool classes instead of Biochem 1 and Biochem 2, things that I just did not find interesting. It allowed me to take immunology and neurobiology and developmental biology. And developmental biology is literally what changed my life. That class, from that day forth, I have been relentless on my journey as a developmental biology because I felt like I finally had found my calling. And this picture on this right, you can see my little cowlick in the back, which is hilarious. But it's me like getting my first experience in a lab and actually finding joy in research and science again. And for the first time in my college career, I excelled in my classes because I actually enjoyed what I was doing and had a clear mental space, not burdened by emotional trauma. And I made dean's lists for the first time in my college career. And I was so proud of myself because I know I worked my ass off for it. And then I also met people that affirmed me. So I met my then boyfriend, now husband, who was the first person in my life who I felt like truly saw me and didn't judge me, but supported and challenged me at the same time. And I would not have gotten into graduate school without him. And so, this is me at the graduation for undergrad. And I graduated with a 3.0 GPA, and that may not be a lot to you, but I earned that. And I really had to dig out of the trenches and really dig within myself to get that. I got a competitive score on my GRE, and so that led me to apply to grad school. So originally I was going to only apply to a couple of grad schools, but Brandon was like, and he said one of my favorite quotes that I still not only tell myself, but to my trainees to today, is that the answer is always no if you don't ask. Don't count yourself out before others get a chance to see you for who you are. And so that made me, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I applied to 7 grad schools, and I ended up getting 6 interviews, 5 acceptances, and only 1 rejection. And so if I had only applied to 1 grad school like I planned to, I probably wouldn't even be here. And so you have to take a chance on yourself and take risks. And so from that, I got accepted at UAB into their developmental biology program. And I made the big leap, at least it was a big leap for me to move, 5 hours away from my family. No one really leaves Georgia. Most of my family is in Georgia still and very, very close to each other. So it was a big step for me to leave my family and be that far away. And I started at UAB for my PhD. And the PhD in general is just the hardest thing that I've done thus far. And I think that not only it was incredibly hard, but I was on a mission. I felt like I had to prove to myself and to others that I could do this, and that I got the years of me getting some bad grades in undergrad, not because I was stupid or not capable, but because I was going through some things, and I wanted to prove that I could do it. And so I don't think we as people brag on ourselves enough. And so I'm here to brag on myself for this one slide, okay? So both academically and service-based, I excelled. Like I got a 4.0 GPA in grad school, and they kept telling us in grad school that, classes don't matter. They matter to me. So I went super hard in classes, so much so that I was a tutor for most of my time in grad school. I got 5 publications. I got teaching certificates. I won awards. I started organizations. I sat on the president of the graduate student government. Um, I just really wanted to pour myself into this stage of my life because I felt like it was a privilege not only to be there with my history, but also I had found my love and my passion. And I just wanted to pour everything of who I am into it, because I was just so grateful to have the opportunity. And the PhD was definitely the hardest thing that I've done, but I truly enjoyed it. And it continuously helped me mold into the person that I am today. And so, yeah, this is me at my graduation photo shoot, because I'm real extra. So of course I had a whole photo shoot, but also they canceled our graduation the week of, which I'm still salty about. But my family had drove 5 hours to see me, and I had already had this photo shoot planned. And so it kind of softened the blow, but I was so proud of myself, not only for what I've accomplished, but being the first doctor in my family. They still don't know what I do, but they support me. And I really, I appreciated the journey that got me here. But not only did I excel academically and in service, but the true joy of my life is outreach and helping others and being of service to others, because if only someone had looked at me and saw what I was going through and supported me, I felt as though my journey could have been a little easier. And so I make it my life mission to be that support to others, whether you ask me or not. I'm very much a mom, and I will be all in your business, but only because I really want to, don't you shake your head, Jasmine, only because I really want to pour into people and love on people. Because I always tell myself, like, what's the point of accumulating all this knowledge, this expertise, these gifts if I don't share it? Because love isn't love if you don't give it away. And I truly love what I do. And it would be, a shame on me not to share it with others. And so these pictures are some of the ways that I engage in outreach and teaching and mentoring. And that is the thing that I'm most proud of. These are other ways of me going to protests and sharing my research. I have a picture with the president and provost of UAB in the bottom corner there. Again, very engaged in service and outreach. And I just love what I do. And I wake up every day grateful that I get to do what I love for a living. And I think that's a privilege. And because it's a privilege, I feel obligated to share it with the world. So who am I today? So now I've entered my all at once phase, where I felt like, though I had a tumultuous upbringing and a rocky, transition here, I'm very comfortable in my skin and who I am. And I know that I deserve to be in every room that I enter. And so I'm still a nerd, but no longer a band nerd. Now I'm a science nerd, as you can see on the left. I love what I do. And on the right is me presenting at a conference where I recently won an award. And I'm just really grateful to be here. And I think that it shows in my work. So a little bit about my science, because I've just been blabbering on about my life, but my path has been meandering, very, all over the place. So in undergrad, again, with that cowlick in the back there, but I studied the mechanism of how pathogens infect cells. So I actually worked on a pathogen called Toxoplasma gondii. And so this is a pathogen primarily in cats. So all you cat owners beware. But it's very dormant. It's okay, you're fine. But what though I didn't like working with infectious diseases, I loved the research techniques that I learned. And so this again really sparked the joy for research in my life that led me to grad school. And in grad school is where I became a developmental biologist and an embryologist. And I studied the role of TGF-beta signaling in spinal column development. And I was just in love with my project, really enjoyed my time at UAB. I felt so supported. And that allowed me to transition to WashU in my postdoc, where I studied the roles of the immune system and the intervertebral disc regeneration and healing. And the intervertebral disc is a connective tissue of the spine. And so though these things seem disjointed, every experience scientifically thus far have led to the bundle of products that I am today, and have all been worthwhile and enjoyable. But it takes a village. Every part or transition in my life, I have been fully supported with a community of friends who I could rely on. Again, not feeling so isolated. And so in high school, as you can see here with my band nerds, some of my best friends. In college, I had a close-knit group of friends as well. And I absolutely could not have gotten through grad school without the people that you see here on the right. They were my rock. And you have to find your people, because this life is hard and it's hard to get through it alone. And entering the postdoc was the first time I felt like I did not have a community. At these other stages of my life, you come in with a cohort, and so you kind of have a built-in community. But in this postdoc, this is a job. And so you come in an individual position, and that transition back to isolation was really tough on my mental health. And so though I said I was going to leave all the DEI work behind, I started an organization, as I do, and I started the Black Postdoc Association. But this really gave me that sense of community that I was really needing, and has been a lifesaver for my mental health and St. Louis so far. But also my family. And so though we've had a rocky history and we haven't always been the closest, without my family, I would not have gotten back into college, back into my classes, and I would not be here today. And I'm forever grateful for them and in their debt for that sacrifice that they made for me. I'm holding out on paying their bills to support my future and my potential. I'm so grateful for that. But also my husband, that is such a nice picture. I put my best wedding picture up there for y'all. But, and my two dogs, like they are my rock. And moving across the country into the Midwest with my husband and my dogs, they have been my saving grace, because moving and transitioning is hard. And I know I had them to rely on. But also my mentors and my sponsors. Every person on this screen has left an indelible mark on me for a variety of reasons. And so Dr. Dugan here in the far left is the developmental biology teacher that changed the trajectory of my life. The UAB faculty like Dr. Lauren McMahon and Dr. Schneider, who were integral in the GBS process, were just good people. And they really inspired me to put my best foot forward every day. My UAB advisor, Dr. Rosa Serra, which is one of the most brilliant scientists I've ever met. I aspire to be scientifically like her. Herbert, who was my therapist, the first therapist I ever had, now friend and confidant, is kept me grounded and, saved me from a lot of mental health crises multiple times in grad school. Simon, my current advisor, that challenges me to ask new questions and be a better scientist. And Dr. Paulette Dilworth, who is just goals. Like, if you don't know her, you should Google her, okay? She is I think she's the VP of DEI at UAB, but she's just a fantastic person, and I aim to be like her one day. So I wanted to show this slide of that. You never know what's going on. What you see every day is just a snippet of people. And so you need to lead with kindness because you never know what people could be going through. And so just to talk about my journey real quick. So again, started at UGA, went to UNB for grad school. I am currently here in my postdoc. But what's next for me? Well, I want to secure a tenure track faculty position, run a lab of my own, support and nurture students of my own. And in a year, I'm going to be on the job market. So hire me. Tell your friends you like this talk. Tell them about it. If you want some business card, I'll mail them to you. But yeah, I'm on the job market. So don't forget your girl. But what's my, 20, 30-year plan? I would really like to be the VP or Dean of Research. I feel as though that's the way that I could really lift as I climb and build internal resources for students who don't have, so they don't have to struggle as I did. Make it the road easier for them. So what are my takeaways? So there's power in taking ownership of your narrative. So I could have been dissuaded by the comments about my grades in undergrad, but I knew the struggle that I had through that time and that I was a miracle even being in the room. And so I take ownership of that every day because I won't allow people to judge me and they don't even know me. Don't let shame or fear dictate your life. Ask for help. You have to self-advocate. You have to, because people did not know that I was struggling until I started asking for help. So let people in. And sometimes you have to create the resources that you need. So sometimes you're going to enter a space that is not a safe space for you, that is not a affirming or a community-based space for you. And sometimes you're going to have to seek out your own community, like I did in my postdoc with the Black Postdoc Association. Try therapy. Therapy has changed my life. It really let me, the fact that I've gone to therapy is the reason that I can talk so openly about the struggles that I've been through today. And I always say that if your body is in pain, you're going to run to your physician. Why not run to your therapist if your mind is in pain? And people believed in me long before I believed in myself. And they gave me courage to believe in myself and to thus try. So speak life into people because you never know how that can change the trajectory of their life. You are worthy of every good thing that comes your way. You are not here by a fluke or a mistake. You've earned it. And for me overall, I just want to leave a legacy of support and encouragement. And my favorite quote that I love so much by Dr. Angelo is that Dr. Maya Angelou is that I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I just want to leave a feeling of support and love in the world because I'm blessed to be here and I want to share that blessing. So to bring it back all together to the movie, is that it ends with this really good quote of every rejection, every disappointment has led you here to this moment. Don't let anything distract you from it. You are more than your history and you are more than the things that you've gone through. Okay. So this is my contact information. I'm very, very open and active on Twitter, a little so-so on LinkedIn, but this QR code links to my website. So if you ever have questions or maybe your question is too sensitive for this space, I'm always open to talk. And I would love to have a discussion about the things you've seen today. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Sade. That was awesome. Like, you know, I know that I've like known you for a little while, but I like did not know you like I thought I know you. So that was really great and inspiring. As usual, you are a force to be reckoned with, and I'm so excited to see you just come into your own as the dean of the dean of research of whatever university is just lucky enough to have you. So, does anybody have any questions for the great Sade? Lewin says, "How do you do it? You're so great."
One foot in front of the other. Yeah. Sometimes it gets overwhelming, right? Like these feelings and these thoughts, these experiences, they don't go away. And so when they get overwhelming, I just have to talk to people. Like that's why having a therapist is so key, is that sometimes the shame bubbles up, and it's not shame that I've earned, it's just shame from my experiences. And so having that support system, having that community brunch is my thing, right? Like I love going and talking with my friends and they can be open and honest with me. And so yeah, you have to have an outlet.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, you were such a force in grad school. I had no idea like that you just always seemed like you had it put together. But Herb has his hand raised.
Sade. Listen, not a question, just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time, and in the list of people that I've collected over the years with amazing journeys and such like levels of resilience, like you're at the top, and I appreciate our time together because selfishly it impacted me in a positive way. And I'm in the PhD program and doing what I'm doing in part because of people like you and Jasmine, and seeing you all navigate your processes and do the things that you've done. And the impact that you had at UAB, being the GSG president and navigating through COVID. But also when I first met you, it was very like, business casual. And towards the end, it was like black power buttons and afros and big earrings
It's true.
and still business casual. And I tell a lot of students about that transformation and like, being able to embrace your identity and grow your identity. And then to come from humble beginnings to get to this point, it is absolutely amazing. And the impact that you're going to have on people going forward, like you're going to create my stories with other people. And that's amazing. So kudos to you and everything that you've done and everything you're going to do. And I look forward to scrolling down Facebook and seeing like your picture and some amazing research breakthrough that's going to extend my life at some point. So awesomeness.
Totally retweet everything that he said. Just such a force. So proud of you. Got a lot of good comments in the chat as well. Just how your talk was awesome and people taking away your quotes and lessons that you shared. You're so inspirational. And then somebody validating that you do lift as you climb, which you do. 450%, always overachiever. Lewin says so too. I'm so proud of you and just can't wait to see where you go next. So.
Thank y'all so much. It really means a lot. And
well.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I do what I feel compelled to do. And I feel like I can't just sit by and do nothing because it would be wasting the opportunity that has been given to me. And so, yeah.
I really hope that you enjoyed just giving yourself the celebration you deserve for the last hour. You just so good. I'm so excited. When we were talking about who we were going to feature for My Story this year, like our little planning committee, Herb was like, Shadow Williams Clayton. And we're all like, yes, no contest. This is it. So we're just so thankful that you're able to share your story with us. Let's see, this calls for My Story. This is a fan favorite, My Story, what they say. So Lewin, all right. I'll get a run. But this was really great. And again, thank you, Sade. Please reach out to her or us if you have any questions, or definitely reach out to Sade if you have or want to continue the conversation or get some more inspiration from her. And we will. Evan says hi.
Hi, Evan.
Friends from grad school. But anyway, I hope to see you all at our De-Stress Power Hour at noon. We're going to have Roly Poly for lunch. So come and join us. And again, Sade, thank you so much. I see you on Twitter. See y'all.
Thank you.